Aaron Burr was born in 1756 with every advantage a man could ask for, and yet his life would become one of the strangest tragedies in American history. He came into the world in Newark, New Jersey, the son of a respected minister and college president, and the grandson of the famous preacher and theologian Jonathan Edwards. In another life, Burr might have become a noble statesman, a polished gentleman of the new republic, maybe even a president remembered with honor. But life gave him a cruel beginning. In 1757, when Burr was still an infant, his father died. In 1758, his mother died too. Before Aaron Burr was even 3 years old, he was an orphan. But he was brilliant. Almost unnervingly brilliant. In 1769, at only 13 years old, Burr entered the College of New Jersey, which we know today as Princeton. By 1772, while still a teenager, he had graduated. He was small, sharp-eyed, disciplined, and ambitious. He carried himself like a man who had been born in the shadow of greatness and expected to claim some of it for himself. Then came 1775, and with it, the American Revolution. Burr joined the Continental Army and soon found himself part of one of the most miserable military adventures of the war, Benedict Arnold's march through the wilderness to Quebec. It was a brutal expedition through cold, hunger, swamp, sickness, and exhaustion. Men collapsed, supplies disappeared. The wilderness seemed determined to swallow them whole. Burr survived it, and in 1776, during the failed attack on Quebec, he showed real courage. Later that same year, Burr briefly served on George Washington's staff. That alone might have set him on the path toward greatness, but something about Burr did not sit well with Washington. The two men never formed the warm bond Burr may have hoped for. It was an early sign of a pattern that would follow him for the rest of his life. Burr could impress powerful men, but he rarely made them trust him. From 1777 to 1779, Burr continued to serve in the war and rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel. But poor health wore him down, and in 1779 he resigned from the army. He had proven himself brave but not beloved, capable but not embraced. After the war, Burr turned to law and politics. In 1782, he married Theodosia Bartow Prevost, a widow older than himself, intelligent, graceful, and strong-minded. Their marriage was unusually tender and intellectually equal for the time. In 1783, Burr began practicing law in New York, and that same year his daughter, Theodosia Burr, was born. Burr adored her. In an age when many girls were trained only for manners and marriage, Burr gave Theodosia an education fit for a statesman. It was one of the more surprising and admirable parts of his character. For all his flaws, Burr believed his daughter's mind deserved to be sharpened. By the 1790s, Aaron Burr had become a polished New York lawyer and a dangerous political operator. He was charming when charm was useful, quiet when silence was more powerful, and always calculating. In 1791, he defeated Philip Schuyler for a seat in the United States Senate. That victory mattered for more than politics, because Schuyler was Alexander Hamilton's father-in-law. From that moment forward, Hamilton looked at Burr with suspicion, and Burr looked back with cold resentment. In 1796, Burr ran for vice president and lost. But in 1800, he stood at the center of one of the strangest elections in American history. Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr were both Democratic Republicans, and under the old election system, they tied in the Electoral College. The decision went to the House of Representatives. For a brief and bewildering moment, Aaron Burr came close to becoming President of the United States through a flaw in the Constitution in how presidents and vice presidents were elected through the Electoral College. Later, this flaw was rectified with the 12th Amendment to the Constitution. Hamilton despised Jefferson's politics, but he feared Burr's character even more. So Hamilton used his influence to help Jefferson win. In 1801, Jefferson became president, and Burr became vice president. But Jefferson never trusted him after that. Burr had reached the second highest office in the nation, yet somehow he seemed more isolated than ever. Then came 1804, the year that sealed his name to infamy. Burr ran for governor of New York and lost. During the campaign, he believed Alexander Hamilton had slandered him. Hamilton had spent years calling Burr dangerous, unprincipled, and unfit for power. Burr had endured much of it, but now his career was collapsing, his pride was wounded, and his patience was gone. He challenged Hamilton to a duel. On July 11, 1804, the two men met at Weehawken, New Jersey, the same sorrowful field where Hamilton's own son had died in a duel only a few years earlier. Pistols were raised, shots were fired. Hamilton fell mortally wounded. He died the next day, July 12, 1804. Aaron Burr, the sitting vice president of the United States, had killed one of the most famous men in America. Legally, Burr survived. Politically, he was ruined. He finished his term as vice president, even presiding over the Senate with dignity, but his future in national politics was gone. Most men would have disappeared quietly after that. Burr did not. In 1805 and 1806, he turned west, and here the story becomes stranger than the duel. Burr traveled through the Western territories, met with powerful men, gathered followers, and began speaking in vague, shadowy terms about opportunity. Was he planning to invade Spanish-held Mexico? Was he trying to create a private empire? Was he plotting to separate Western lands from the United States? Even now, historians argue over what Burr truly intended. His plans were misty, bold, and dangerous, just clear enough to frighten people, and just unclear enough to remain mysterious. President Jefferson came to believe Burr was plotting treason. In 1807, Burr was arrested and brought to trial in Richmond, Virginia. Chief Justice John Marshall presided. The case became one of the great legal dramas of the young republic. Burr was defended brilliantly, and the government could not prove that he had committed an overt act of treason. He was acquitted. But acquittal did not mean restoration. Burr walked out of court legally free but publicly ruined. In 1808, he left America and went to Europe, where he drifted through England, France, and other places, often short of money and always chasing some new possibility that never quite appeared. By 1812, he returned to the United States and quietly resumed practicing law in New York. Then came the wound that may have hurt him more than Hamilton's bullet ever hurt his reputation. In 1813, his beloved daughter Theodosia vanished at sea while traveling from South Carolina to New York. The ship was lost, and she was never seen again. For Burr, who had poured so much affection and hope into her, it was a crushing blow. He lived on, but his fiery personality had gone dim. In 1833, at the age of 77, Burr married wealthy widow Eliza Jumel. It was a strange, late-life marriage, and it quickly collapsed. In 1836, the divorce was finalized. That same day, September 14, 1836, at the age of 80, Aaron Burr died of a stroke on Staten Island, and so ended one of the most peculiar lives in American history. Aaron Burr had been an orphaned prodigy, a Revolutionary War officer, a brilliant lawyer, a senator, a vice president, a duelist, an accused traitor, an exile, and a broken old man. He had stood close to Washington, close to Jefferson, close to the presidency, close to creating an empire, and close to greatness. But somehow, every door he nearly opened became a trap. In the end, Aaron Burr is remembered not simply because he killed Alexander Hamilton, but because his whole life seemed like a duel between genius and ruin. And ruin, in the end, fired the final shot.